Beijing's alleged move to arm Iran is not the only development making news between the two sides. In fact, reports suggest that Iran may have used a Chinese spy satellite system to track and strike American military positions in the Gulf during the war. Our next report tells you how the war is not just about battlefield gains, but it's also about precision strikes. Take a look.
For 40 days, the world saw the might of American and Israeli air power. Thousands of Iranian targets struck. Iran, despite being hit hard, retaliated strongly. Iranian missiles and drones rained down on Israel and US bases across the Gulf. Questions swirled that how Iran, without having any advanced radar or surveillance system, carried out these precision strikes. Now it appears that Tehran had eyes in the skies. Reports say Iran secretly acquired a Chinese spy satellite. It gave IRGC a powerful new capability to target US bases across the Gulf during the 41 days of war. T-01B, the spacecraft launched in China, was reportedly transferred to Iran after reaching the orbit. It is not any ordinary satellite. High-resolution imaging, real-time tracking, persistent surveillance over thousands of kilometers. Experts say such a system can detect troop movements, track aircraft, and even guide strike coordinates, turning seconds into decisive advantage. This explains how US bases were hit with striking accuracy. Reports say the satellite captured images of Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. On March 14th, US President Donald Trump confirmed US planes at base were hit and 5 US Air Force refueling planes suffered damages. The satellite reportedly surveilled the Muaffaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, locations close to the US 5th Fleet Naval Base in Bahrain's Manama and Erbil Airport in Iraq. This around the time IRGC claimed attacks on facilities in those areas. On the other hand, the battlefield is sending its own signals. The US confirms losing a MQ-4C Triton surveillance drone in the Persian Gulf, one of its most advanced eyes in the sky. One such drone costs $240 million. US CENTCOM claims nearly 400 US troops have suffered injuries in Iranian strikes. But Iran maintains it carried out retaliatory strikes on US bases in the Gulf region. The geopolitical temperature is rising too. US President Donald Trump says his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping has agreed to not aid Iran militarily.
He responded to a letter that I wrote because I had heard that China is giving weapons to, you're seeing it all over the place, to Iran, that China's
Did he
giving
say
weapons.
He's giving them?
Yeah, and I wrote him a letter asking him not to do that. And he wrote me a letter saying that essentially he's not doing that.
China denies sending any military support to Iran.
China has always adopted a cautious and responsible attitude towards the export of military items, implementing strict controls in accordance with its own export control laws and regulations and its international obligations. We oppose baseless smears and malicious association.
But the strategic context is impossible to ignore. Beijing is deeply embedded in the Gulf, the region's biggest oil buyer and a growing power player with expanding influence. The damage to the American military might is scattered across the sands of West Asia. Right now, Iranian military facilities are badly damaged, while 10 US radar systems are also crippled. both sides are bracing up for round 2 if the diplomacy fails. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Europe is reportedly fast-tracking a contingency plan inside NATO, preparing for a scenario many leaders once dismissed, a complete American pullback from the alliance. Tensions between Washington and European capitals have grown recently, especially regarding the Iran war. And in an interview with the Fox News channel released earlier today, the US president said, and I'm quoting him here, "Why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO if they're not going to be with us?" Now, against this backdrop, Europe is reportedly building a fallback option for a potential American withdrawal from the alliance, described also as a European NATO. The plan reportedly involves Europe taking control of NATO's command structure by placing more European officers in top operational roles. It aims to plug potential gaps left by US by building its own military assets. The goal reportedly is not to replace NATO, but to keep it functional without Washington. Now, the biggest turning point for European-led NATO is reportedly coming from Berlin. Under Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Berlin is now reportedly backing French-led calls for greater European military independence, something that it had resisted in the past. This European-led shift reportedly began taking shape last year, and it has expedited in the recent months. Donald Trump's threats, ranging from abandoning NATO to seizing Greenland from Denmark, have reportedly accelerated this process. And Europe's refusal to support US action against Iran has only added urgency and anxiety over American support for NATO or the lack thereof. In the latest on this end, Trump has openly criticized the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni now. In an interview with an Italian newspaper, Trump allegedly accused Meloni of lacking courage and failing to support Washington's efforts against Iran. While Trump's latest comments against Meloni also stem from the Italian Prime Minister defending the Pope against the president's criticism, the US president's comments incidentally come just weeks after Italy reportedly blocked US bombers from operating out of its Sicilian base during the war against Iran. The pushback doesn't stop there. UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer has, as all of us know, refused British participation as well in enforcing a US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, while Spain has openly questioned the entire strategy after denying American access to its bases and airspace. But the challenge for a European-led NATO is enormous. Remember, NATO's entire architecture, from intelligence to logistics to the top command, is built around American leadership. The alliance is heavily dependent on the United States. Around 85,000 American troops remain stationed across Europe at the moment, while US defense giants supply nearly half of Europe's military hardware. Following America's recent push for Europe to take greater control of NATO, remember, European nations are now taking on more command positions and they're leading major military exercises, especially along NATO's eastern flank near Russia. There's also renewed discussion around reintroducing military conscription in several countries, yet critical gaps remain. Europe lacks the advanced surveillance, satellite systems and missile warning capabilities that the US provides. Nuclear deterrence is another weak spot. Following his meeting with Trump last week, remember, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte had acknowledged the shift, saying that the alliance will become more European-led. Listen in.
Allies recognize, and I recognize, we are in a period of profound change in the transatlantic alliance. Europe is assuming a greater and fairer share of the task of providing for its conventional defense. And from that, there will be no going back.
Now, Finland's President Alexander Stubb has also said in the past that the NATO transition is already underway, stating that the priority is to manage the transition carefully before any sudden American exit leaves Europe in a security vacuum. So as things stand, Europe appears to be no longer waiting for an American withdrawal from NATO. Rather, it is now preparing for a future where it may have to stand alone. Moving on to other updates now, a deeply concerning study out of the United Kingdom is raising fresh alarm bells about child safety on social media platform X. The research, which was conducted by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, suggests that minors as young as 13 years are being exposed to explicit sexual content despite platform rules and age restrictions. To test the system, researchers created accounts posing as 13-year-old users, which is the minimum age that is permitted on this platform. What they found points to significant gaps in content moderation and platform safeguards. Simple searches using adult words led to alarming results. According to the findings, 8 out of the 10 searches returned content that would be classified as explicit, including posts featuring nudity and graphic material. This raises serious questions about how effectively the platform's algorithms are filtering or failing to filter harmful content for younger users. The report also flags concerns around direct messaging. While accounts for under 18 users are restricted to messages from accounts they follow, remember, these settings can be altered, potentially opening the door to unsolicited contact and even grooming risks. The Center for Countering Digital Hate says that this exposure is not incidental, but driven in part by the platform's own recommendation system, and that current safeguards are simply not strong enough. The findings could also have legal implications. Under the United Kingdom's Online Safety Act, digital platforms are required to take active steps to prevent children from accessing harmful content. The study raises questions about whether those obligations are being met. And the timing of this report is significant as well. Scrutiny of X has been growing since its acquisition by Elon Musk in 2022. Remember, critics have raised concerns about content moderation, platform policies, as well as user safety. And more recently, the platform has also faced backlash over its Grok AI tool, which allows users to edit images of real people. UK's Prime Minister Starmer has described some of these AI-generated images as disgusting and shameful. Regulators are now stepping in. UK's media regulator, known as Ofcom, has launched a formal investigation into the platform's safety practices. That includes its AI systems and how it handles harmful content. The testing for this study was conducted between February and March. At the heart of this issue is a fundamental question. Are enough safeguards in place to protect our children online? And if not, who is accountable? And what more can be done to protect their future?